I'm also doing the hot yogas, right? I did one at home. I'm not going to count that one. I did it on the 30th too, so it doesn't really count. But I actually found if you're into yoga, if you want to get into yoga, if you're ever curious about yoga, dude, it's one of the most beneficial things you can do for your body. You'll drip sweat. You'll sweat probably like you never sweat in your entire life. Like the first time I did hot yoga at a real studio, I probably sweat 250% more than I've ever sweat at any other time in my life. Like, it was ridiculous, the amount of sweat. The one that I go to is East Nashville Hot Yoga, and it's a 90-minute class most of the time. The fucked up thing is that I had to schedule it out so I can get my 10 in, and only some of them are 90 minutes. Like the one I go every Sunday, and the Sunday at 10 a.m. is 90 minutes. But all the ones through the week, they don't really offer a 90-minute that I can make it to, because I'm not getting in there at 6 a.m. There's just no way that's happening. I'm just not doing it. So they're only 60 minutes, but I mean, it's better than nothing. So I'm going to do 4 90s and then 6 60-minute classes. But the yoga, dude, it's horrible. It's literally the worst thing ever. Like, the first time I did it, I know I just said it's great, but let me preface it with this: it makes you feel worse than you've ever felt probably the first time you do it. I don't want to discourage anybody from doing it. The suffering is a big part of it. But I went in there, and the first class I went to, I was running late. I scheduled beforehand, and I paid beforehand, and I got caught in traffic, and I was going to be late pretty much. And the thing about the class is it's in 105-degree heat in a room, and the humidity is like, I can't remember what the humidity is, like 45%, 50% humidity in a 105-degree room, and they lock the door. So, like, once the class starts, you can't get in, and you can't get out. Like, you'd have to stop the class and get the instructor to unlock the door to let you out of the room. Like, totally. And that is a little intimidating. But also, yoga is meant to, like, kind of stabilize your mind a little bit. So being late, running late, like having to park in East Nashville where I've never been before, and then run across the street and get in the studio. I had like 2 minutes to spare, and I'm like registering as they're starting the class, and I gotta change. It was a little hectic. And then I got in there, and the important thing about yoga is you need to go hard. Like, you gotta give it 100% every pose. I think you hold every pose for a minute. There's 26 positions, and then you do some savasana in between, which is just like a resting pose. So you hold each pose for a minute, I think, is how long you work on each one. And then you do everything twice in the 90-minute class. Every pose you do 2 times. So I went way hard. Like, I was going hard. And there's a standing section, and there's a section where you do on the ground. And the standing portion of the class is a little bit less than half, but it's all up top. And, well, I mean, it might be about half. But what it does, dude, that you don't expect is it toasted my legs. My legs were dead. I was, like, literally, I never felt leg fatigue like that except for one other time in my life. I did track in high school. I tried to run track my junior year, and I did weightlifting with, like, the A-team track dudes. And that was the first time I ever vomited from working out 100%. The track coach was in there, like, making fun of me and calling me a bitch and shit because I was in the marching band, and he was like, "Oh, you don't get work like this in band. Come on, get up." And I was like, "No, dude, you don't understand. My legs are failing me, and I'm gonna vomit right now." And he was trying to hype me up or whatever, but I just wasn't having it. Coach Lador, if you're out there, sorry, dude, I failed you. And then I quit track immediately after that because I had shit going on, and I could not deal with that all the time. So yeah, I definitely I hobbled my ass. I got up off the ground and hobbled into the bathroom and projectile vomited and collapsed on the floor in that track practice, and I never went back. So shouts out Coach Lador. But the hot yoga, second worst leg fatigue I've ever had for sure. I did the whole standing portion, and what was interesting to me is the yoga instructor, I introduced myself to her before the class, and she remembered my name because as we got into it, she kept looking at me like and saying, "David, you need to, ease back on your heels more. Don't get up on your toes." In this pose, she started, like, criticizing my poses, right? So in my mind, I'm like, she knows I'm a first-time student. She must see me and see I got potential and that I'm doing good, and then she expects more out of me. I'm trying to be positive, right? That's where my mind goes. So I start listening to her, and I start going harder and harder, and really trying to achieve the poses. And before I know it, I'm at that flashback to vomiting in track practice, dude. I feel that same feeling coming back. So in that first class, I think I had to take like at least 10 breaks to keep from throwing up in that locked room. The only thing that got me by was that I knew I was in that room. The heat was horrible. The humidity and the sweat wouldn't stop. But I was like, dude, you can't throw up in this room because there's like 20 people in here. And if you vomit, they're all going to freak out. And we're all locked in here. And just hot, sweaty vomit. Just like, sorry if you're eating some food or anything right now. But the fear of having to go through that with, like 19 other strangers in the room really just scared. It put the fear of God into me into not vomiting. So normally I don't like to quit, like when I'm working out and doing stuff. Like I will push myself to puking with running and different stuff like that because mentally you get better after stuff like that. But in the yoga studio, I don't think that's the place to be vomiting. You know what I'm saying? So I laid out a little bit, and I've gone back to the class probably 3 times since then. And the last time I went, I actually made it through the entire class without taking a break, which was great because there's always a couple poses that fuck me up, dude. Like it's really interesting Bikram yoga, like the Hot 26. This dude Bikram, who if you look into him, he's actually a fucking crazy person. But somehow he developed a system for yoga, and it's just incredible, dude. Like afterwards, the high you get from like working out and just from doing the yoga and the positions, the flexibility, you just get this. You leave and you did something. You worked hard and you accomplished something. Even if you got to take some breaks or whatever, you leave feeling great. So I remember that last class, I didn't have to take any breaks at all. My flexibility was like insane. That's the other thing. The heat, dude. I'm like a really flexible person. Like I'm double jointed. I think everybody in my family is double jointed. Like I don't know if that makes you lucky or what, if you're lucky to be double jointed, but I'm naturally really flexible as like a 6'1" male. Like normally dudes are like 6'1". I don't think they're very flexible. They're probably pretty stiff dudes, but I'm naturally pretty flexible. So when I get in there, dude, the heat really loosens up all your ligaments and your hamstrings and stuff. So you getting deep. Like I can put my whole torso and head against my legs, like locked from the standing position, like stretch down and touch my toes, and like put my hands like more than flat on the ground. I'm like bending my elbows, whole torso and head flat against my legs. It's insane how the heat helps your flexibility, But yeah, man, I'm just looking forward to getting back into doing some yoga. It really helps your mind. Another thing about it is not only the physical aspect of it, but you also got to start fighting your mind in there, because the thing I found every time I go in, that it's later and later that my mind starts to turn on me. So at the very beginning, it got like right after a certain number of the standing portions, my mind started being like, dude, you can't do this. Like you're going to have to fall out. Like you need to lay down. You're not going to be able to achieve this. And then as time went on, I think I've done 4 official classes and I've done a couple at home. Your mind just you move the goalpost, right? Like you just get a little further down the line and you want to quit later and later. And it's the same thing with running. It's the same thing with anything, really, any kind of thing you're doing. So, I mean, that's just the test of time, dude. There's ladies, old ladies, like little girls in there doing that shit. So, I mean, it makes you feel like a little bitch sometimes. But you go in there, you work hard. They give you the one thing I don't like, and this is probably my only negative criticism about it, is there's a little inconsistency between the instructors. And the only inconsistency is some of them, at the end, they will give you these cold rags that are scented with lavender, and it's probably the most relieving feeling I've ever had in my life, where you just bust your ass in this class and you feel horrible. You get your final savasana and you lay down and you're just like feeling your heart rate and you're feeling your breathing, and then she's talking to you and she tells you to finally close your eyes, because a big point of yoga is you're not supposed to close your eyes. Like you're supposed to stare straight ahead or see yourself in the mirror, make sure you're executing the poses. But in the final savasana, she tells you to close your eyes, and you just feel so relieved, and you're holding your hands out by your side, and she comes out and just puts this little cold lavender rag in your hand, and you just put it on your face and you start wiping yourself with it. Oh, dude, it feels amazing. But some of those yoga instructors are hardcore motherfuckers, and I didn't know that you don't get the lavender rag every time. So I did 2 classes and I got the lavender rag, and then my 3rd class I had a different instructor, and I get to the end and no rag, dude. She doesn't come around and give out the rag. She's just like, y'all got to man up. You got to be men today, or be adults. I don't want to exclude anybody. But yeah, no rag, dude. And I asked her about it afterwards, and what she said, she kind of dogged the other yoga instructor. She's like, well, I've actually been doing this a lot longer than so and so or so and so, and that blah blah blah. And I was like, fuck you, lady, give me the rag. You know what I'm saying? I came here for one reason. No, that's not. But it feels so good. You get that lavender scent, whatever, that cold rag. I want to go get one right now, dude. I'm going to just go wash my face a little bit in some cold water. Shit is so relieving. But yeah, hot yoga, if you've never done it, it is the best and worst thing ever. You feel horrible most of the time. But if you're anybody like me, I like to, at least lately, I try to do things where I'm embracing some kind of suffering, because I've kind of come to this feeling that if you don't find a way to suffer and inflict it on yourself, life kind of will find it for you. Like, life will put you through some suffering. Life will make you deal with something to learn. Like, suffering and putting up with stress and hardship, like that's an important part of life. I think it makes you improve. And a lot of people go through a lot of hardship and a lot of stress that they have no control over, and they're kind of out of control of their lives. So it's like financial stress and maybe not being happy or being depressed or something like that. But the alternative is you can take control of your life and accomplish things you want, and then you just inflict that onto yourself to make yourself stronger, So the yoga thing, the hot yoga specifically, is a great tool for doing that. Same with running that I'm trying to do a lot. It's all a really great tool, for doing something. Stress is important to life. If you don't have stress in your life, I don't think you're doing yourself a good service. I think you're doing yourself a disservice, because like I said, it will find you. That stress, that hardship, is going to find you if you don't find it. So it's better to be on top of it and provide it to yourself than wait back and let life take care of it for you, So there's that. I think I was started to talk about how to do some hot yoga at home. Just go to YouTube and look up a hot yoga, 90-minute hot yoga class. It'll probably be the first 2 videos that pop up or by the same channel, and just make sure you get the right one. It's a lady, I think she's wearing like a pink tank top, and she's wearing a headset mic, and she's standing in front of some mirrors. It was a pretty decent video. I'm pretty standard to what I do in the class. Of course, I just turned off the AC in the apartment to kind of get a little hot in the house, but the humidity and the heat, it wasn't the same. But it was, it's better than nothing. So hot yoga, there's that. I'm trying to get into that shit this month.